Welcome, everyone. Plant Powered Metro New York is happy to bring you informative sessions with leading wellness experts. As a New York-based nonprofit, we are dedicated to your health and empowerment, providing evidence-based nutrition education and support for meaningful and sustainable lifestyle change. My name is Dr. Michelle Loy. I'm board certified in integrative medicine, lifestyle medicine, medical acupuncture, and pediatrics. I utilize evidence-based interventions from both modern medicine and time-tested traditional modalities, including nutrition, movement, acupuncture, botanicals, and mind-body medicine to prevent and manage chronic medical conditions at Integrative Health and Wellbeing Weill Cornell Medicine. My passion is sharing my clinical and research interests, including nutrition, culinary medicine, botanical medicine, cancer prevention, mental health, women's and children's health, with physicians, patients in our communities. I'm also a member of the Plant Powered Metro Medical Advisory Board. Here's our plan for tonight. We'll have a 25-minute presentation followed by a 10-minute question and answer. Please put your questions in the comments section and we will get to as many of them as we can. Tonight, we are exploring something at the very heart of health. What gives our lives meaning? How do purpose and spirituality shape our well-being, our recovery, and even our longevity? As it turns out, these aren't just abstract ideas. They are powerful, evidence-backed forces in healing. I am honored and happy to introduce Dr. Anthony Lim. Dr. Lim is the medical director of the McDougall Program, a virtual nutrition and lifestyle wellness program that helped countless individuals worldwide to radically improve their overall health and well-being through dietary and lifestyle counseling, accompanied by medical supervision. He is a firm believer in the power of a healthy, balanced lifestyle to prevent and treat chronic illness, and he is committed to helping his patients holistically achieve their best health. He lives in Santa Rosa with his wife and their 2 children, who bring them endless joy and laughter. His outside interests include playing in nature, learning guitar, and continually growing in his Christian faith. Dr. Lim, we're also happy to have you here with us to celebrate your 10th year as medical director of the McDougall Program. Dr. Lim's compassionate approach to lifestyle medicine has inspired many and helped them find the support needed to create a more optimal way of living. We are proud to celebrate you and your decade of work with the McDougall Program, and to learn more about the emotional and spiritual roots of true lasting health. Welcome, Dr. Lim.
Good afternoon, everyone, from Santa Rosa, California. Santa Rosa is 1 hour north of San Francisco, and my wife and I moved out here in 2010 so that I could attend the Santa Rosa Family Medicine residency, and we have loved it here and have stayed on ever since. Let's see, oh, there we go. All right. So I am thrilled to be here today to talk to you about a subject very near and dear to my heart, namely meaning, purpose, and spirituality in medicine. I'm a huge fan of stories. I believe that each of us is a living story. And one of the greatest privileges for me in these 10 years as medical director of the McDougall Program is literally walking alongside each of my patients in their ongoing, ever-evolving story and being a part of their transformation as they address some of the root causes of chronic illness and change their lives for the better. With that, I wanted to share a story that is very personal and impactful, and perhaps gives you insight into why this subject is so near and dear to my heart, namely meaning, purpose, and spirituality. This is a picture of Langdell Library, which is the famous library at Harvard Law School. And I spent countless hours here from 2001 till 2005 when I graduated from Harvard Law School, poring over books. And, I would say up until that point in my life, I had very much defined my meaning and sense of purpose largely based on what I did. In other words, what I produced. So as long as I felt like my life was producing and I was achieving what I thought I ought to be doing, then I was in a good place. And if I felt like I wasn't, then I wasn't in a good place. And so things reached a head in 2003 when I'm in the middle of my studies at Harvard Law at arguably the pinnacle of worldly success, right? A top law school in the nation. I had a six-figure offer from a prestigious law firm in Newport Beach. I was dating my girlfriend, who is now my wife of almost 22 years. And we had been dating at that point for, about 7 years. I was in great physical health. I had recently run the Boston Marathon in under 4 hours. I was eating, maybe at that time, not a plant-based diet, but I was still eating a relatively healthy diet. I had wonderful friends. My parents were healthy. My dearest older brother, Jonathan, we were close. Everything was going well, and yet I felt like a failure because I did not see myself practicing law. I realized that I did not feel like I would be a happy lawyer, and I felt like a total failure. And I was so ashamed of myself at that time that I did not feel like I could even tell my brother or my parents or my girlfriend, who is now my wife of 21 years. Now, of course, I could have told them at that time, but my world was so small in the sense that my worth was what I did, that I didn't feel like I could tell them. It felt like it would be the end of the world, like that my true colors would shine through and that I would face rejection. And it was at that moment when I had reached rock bottom that I finally understood what unconditional love really meant. See, I had been pursuing and studying Christianity from a very intellectual perspective, but I had not ever allowed it to really fully enter into my heart. And I don't know what, each of you comes from various religious backgrounds. This is not a place that I'm preaching. I'm just sharing my story that it was at that moment that I felt like, oh, I could tell Jesus, because Jesus loves me unconditionally, and he sees me for who I am and loves me in spite of it. And that was the moment. That was my conversion moment. And if anyone is to ask me the most impactful moment of my entire life, that's even more than my marriage, even more than the birth of my kids. That's the moment I turn to, because the rest of my life has changed since then. My role as a father, my role as a husband, my role as a friend, how I look at my patients, how I look at people who hurt me, everything is through that filter. And so meaning, purpose, and spirituality really came to the forefront at that moment. And it has also helped me to realize that what you see on the outside, no matter how healthy one may look, you don't really fully see the inside, right? And so I really have come to believe that health is, to a certain extent, an outside-in job. But what I think we neglect is that it is very much an inside-out job as well. Now, the problem with modern medicine is that it's fragmented. The stories that I hear from my patients all the time is how they have very short visits, 10, 15 minutes, that they sense that their doctor is rushed. I think modern medicine has many advantages in terms of the technology, in terms of the medications, life-saving treatments. So I think that there are certain things that it is very good at what it does. But I think when it comes to looking at patients as whole people, emotional, spiritual, psychological, physical, the whole behavioral, the whole gamut, I don't think our medical system is well set up to look at our patients that way. And I think it's for this reason that burnout rates amongst physicians and healthcare providers are higher than they have ever been. This cartoon, which I first, not this specific one, but this image of doctors mopping up the floor, I first saw this presented by Dr. Dean Ornish many years ago. And I think it sort of captures the state of modern medicine. And what you see here is two doctors mopping up the floor while the faucet is on full blast and going on and turned on in the background. In other words, we're addressing symptoms through medications and through procedures, but rarely are we actually getting to root cause. What is the driver? What is the underlying drivers of the chronic medical and health conditions that people are suffering with? So after my big moment at Harvard Law School, when my whole sense of identity shifted from what I did to who I was in Christ, everything has changed since then. And it has led me on a journey to continue to pursue holistic, optimal health. And the first place that brought me to was making a shift from law into medicine. I was pre-med at Stanford, where I met my wife, but I had gone away from medicine to try out different careers. Well, my path led me back to medicine. And then after I graduated, both from med school and then, as I mentioned, family medicine residency here in Santa Rosa, my aha moment came when I learned about the power of what is called a whole food plant-based way of eating, which is what Plant Powered Metro New York really specializes in. When I learned about just how powerful a whole food plant-based diet was to not just prevent, but actually reverse chronic illness. And what you see here pictured are many of the types of foods that bring incredible healing potential to my patients. Namely, they fall into 4 categories: fruits, vegetables, legumes, and whole grains. As Michael Pollan, a famous food author and journalist, says, eat food, not too much, mostly plants. I really couldn't put it better than that. I've had the good fortune through the McDougall Program and my dear mentor, Dr. John McDougall, who is a pioneer and a leader in the field of whole food plant-based nutrition, and sadly passed away last year at the age of 78, and we miss him dearly. It's through the McDougall Program that I've really had a front row seat to witnessing the power of a whole food plant-based diet to reverse all these chronic conditions such as diabetes, heart disease, high blood pressure, high cholesterol, autoimmune conditions, even progression of cancer. I've had the firsthand seat to witnessing these over these last 10 years. But I will say that what started out as food being the core has really led me into an even deeper journey into all the aspects of health that are critical. As the World Health Organization defines health, they say that health is a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, and not merely the absence of disease or infirmity. I want to repeat that because it bears worth repeating. Health is a state of complete physical, mental, and social well-being, and not merely the absence of disease or infirmity. In other words, what I now tell my patients is that many of them coming into the McDougall Program are trying to get down to a certain weight or trying to get off certain number of medications. And I say, that's great, but I'll just be honest, I don't know that that's ambitious enough, because what I see when I look at you is your complete health, not just getting off of meds, not just getting down to a certain weight. Because the truth is, I have seen plenty of patients who are at an ideal weight or who are not taking any medications, who are still sick in their soul, who are still impatient or dealing with chronic stress or chasing after something that they're never going to be happy with. And you can just sense that existential angst inside of them that has really caused me to try to get my patients to look much more holistically about health. And so this is a diagram that I created that begins to capture, when I look at patients, how I view their health. And, for the sake of time, I'm not going to delve into these, but just suffice it to say that each one of these bubbles could represent an entire 1 hour talk, if not an entire day of a day-long seminar. So nutrition, how we move our body in terms of physical activity, the ways that we respond to and handle stress, our physical environment and our social environment, our sense of connection with others, and then square within this talk, our sense of purpose and meaning, why we get up in the morning, our sense of spirituality and our belief in anything outside of us, avoidance of unhealthy behaviors, the obvious ones being smoking or excess alcohol consumption, but even more subtle ones, like how much time we spend on social media or how much time we spend watching news, right? Many of my patients can watch 3-4 hours of news, and I've never heard a patient say that they get anything beyond watching the first half hour that actually benefits them in any long-term sense. And then sleep, right? Sleep is such a restorative gift to us, and many of us are neglecting this aspect. So one of my hopes is not only that everyone walks away here more inspired to take a more holistic approach to their health, but then specifically to see the importance of these two areas, purpose and meaning, and spirituality, because I'm board certified in lifestyle medicine by the American College of Lifestyle Medicine. And we talk a lot about food. We talk a lot about physical activity. We talk a lot about stress reduction and avoiding unhealthy behaviors. But we don't necessarily talk a lot about spirituality, purpose, and meaning. And so I do hope that even within the lifestyle-oriented conversation, that we bring these important pillars into the dialogue. Briefly, just in a colloquial way, I think we can think of meaning as how do we make sense of life, especially when we're dealing with suffering and challenge. I know that these times that we're in with climate change, with politics, with wars going on, it is a very, how would I put it? It is cause for many people to feel very anxious. And I think meaning and how we hold on to meaning is something that can help us make sense of what is going on. Purpose, right? What drives us and gives us direction? It's sort of our big why. What's your why? And then spirituality, often thought of as a connection to something greater, whether that's God, whether that's love, nature, or community. Alcoholics Anonymous, right? The first step is basically recognizing that you are powerless in and of yourself, and you appeal to something outside of yourself, whatever name you give that. And these are more than just ideals. They absolutely impact health directly. I attended a very special conference in San Diego a couple months ago, put on by the American College of Lifestyle Medicine, on meaning, purpose, and spirituality. And we had about 100 doctors and health professionals from across the disciplines come to listen to talks presenting the huge amount of evidence and studies that have looked at meaning, purpose, and spirituality as levers that reduce risk of chronic disease, whether it's heart disease, stroke, or dementia, that improve mental health and resilience in terms of lowering rates of depression and anxiety, and that can enhance recovery outcomes in terms of faster recovery or improved immune function. Clearly, I don't have time in this short presentation but I wanted to just share with you one example of a study. This was entitled Association Between Life Purpose and Mortality Among U.S. Adults older than 50 years. And it was a prospective cohort study, which means that they took a population of about 7,000 U.S. adults, and then they followed them for many years between the ages of 51 to 61. They used a psychological questionnaire that included 7 questions assessing purpose in life. And the outcomes that they were looking at were all-cause and cause-specific mortality over time. And the bottom line is the summary sentence, this is their quote, not mine. In summary, a stronger purpose in life was associated with lower all-cause mortality. In other words, the stronger one's sense of purpose was, the lower the likelihood of death, which I would venture to guess is something that everyone here on this call cares about. And this is just a diagram. Basically, this is what's called a survival curve or a Kaplan-Meier curve. And what you see here is that the group that had the highest sense of purpose, which is in yellow, was much more likely at any given time out, whether it's 10 months, 20 months, 30, 40, 50, 60, or 70 months out from the start of the study, to be alive than this group here who had the lowest sense of purpose. And it wasn't an all or nothing. It was basically graded. In other words, the higher your sense of purpose, the higher your likelihood of survival. This is just one study amongst hundreds that have been conducted on meaning, purpose, and spirituality in lifestyle and medicine. So sometimes people think that spirituality, oh, that's just woo-woo, but there's actually hard science to support it. So why does this get overlooked? Well, I think that Western medicine really does focus on symptoms. When you are in a time-pressured environment, it's not conducive to addressing root cause, right? It's not conducive to understanding the whole person. So especially in the way our reimbursement system is, the emphasis is on technology and treatment, not inner transformation. I could help someone have the deepest revelation and insight about themselves and their life, and the amount that Medicare may reimburse me for that is zero, right? So from a monetary perspective as a physician, it doesn't make sense to delve into these deeper layers. Given that that's not what my primary motivation is, then I absolutely do get into this with my patients because I believe it matters, and I believe it can change the course of their journey and their lives. The other reason is spiritual and emotional health, as I mentioned earlier, are often seen as soft or secondary. I think that's frankly untrue and false. It may be soft in the sense that, yes, it's not some hammer. I don't want to like beat people over the head with it. So it's an invitation, but it's not soft in the sense that it's lacking substance. It's very substantive. It's very meaningful. You've just heard me say that of all the moments in my 48 years of life, the one that has had the most power was that moment at Harvard Law School when I gave my life to Jesus. So bottom line is that I do believe that true healing must address the whole person, mind, body, and spirit. So going back to this holistic approach to health, at a minimum, my hope is that from this talk, you will start looking at all these aspects of your health, including considering what is your sense of purpose and meaning? What is your spirituality? Is that something you feel invited to explore further? And I'm just going to present to you what my wheel looks like, which is maybe even more radical, but just so you know what my life looks like. This is for me, my wheel, where for me, my Christian faith, my faith in Jesus is at the center of my world. It is my entire, it's like these glasses, and how I see the world is through the lens of my faith. And so whether it's how I eat, whether it's how I sleep, whether it's how I handle stress, whether it's how I connect with my wife, my kids, my friends, with you as an audience right now, I look at it all through the lens of my faith. And I put here interior life, thoughts, feelings, behaviors. This is especially a ripe field. I think that a very neglected area of my patients' lives is their interior life. We are all so focused on external outcomes. How much do I weigh? How much muscle do I have? How much money do I have in the bank? How big is my house? What kind of car do I like? We're so focused on these external measures of success that we lose sight of this interior life, our thoughts, our feelings, how we are reacting to them, how we're relating to ourselves. And I will say that my faith has given me a strength to be able to delve into these areas of my soul, and over the years has brought much, much fruit. For me, the spiritual journey has been a journey of continual growth, of reaching my fullest potential. Practical applications. How can you begin? Let's say I don't believe in anything. That's okay. Can you start to do things like mindful eating, which is just rather than just shovel food in, can you just sit and be present to your meal? Can you eat one bite at a time and be grateful for it, even if you're not grateful to any one in particular? Can you just be thankful for the fact that you have food to eat, rather than just seeing it as something to get done and be over with, right? If prayer is not in your world, many people have experienced benefit from meditation. So I do think that silence and stillness is a portal, is an entryway into the spiritual world. So even if you just sit in quiet, for many people, that is an incredibly difficult thing to do. I know it was for me, as someone who was always very productivity oriented. The idea of sitting and just not thinking about anything seemed like a total waste of time. Yet now that is oftentimes what you will see me doing, is sitting, praying, or thinking about nothing and just allowing my thoughts to go and float by. Nature, I could share tons of studies on the benefits of nature for one's health. But I think that a huge driver of that is this sense of peace and awe that we feel when we're in nature. That, right? I've never had a patient who says, Dr. Lim, that recommendation you said to get out more in nature, that was a really bad idea. I'm more stressed out. I'm more disconnected, and I feel less healthy than ever before. That's never happened, right? Anyone who has taken up my invitation to go out in nature feels more centered, feels more at peace, and feels connected to something beyond themselves, namely nature. Journaling. So I'm a huge fan of journaling. This is my current personal journal, one of volumes and volumes. This, for me now, this used to be a place where I just dumped my thoughts. As my faith has evolved, this is now basically an ongoing conversation between me and God, where I say, Lord, and I present to him what I'm coming with, and I just sort of listen and see what God is giving back to me. And it's been a huge place of reflection and growth, and something that I've gotten many patients to start doing is to just start journaling whatever's coming to mind for them. And that's brought a lot of fruit in terms of deepening their awareness. And then last, serving others, embodying love and compassion in your life. When you are helping out other people, it always brings this sense of deeper fulfillment and meaning to people's lives. So those are just a couple of practical ways. And I just wanted to end with I began with a story, and I want to end with a story, a very recent one. I want to kind of show you how this sort of story wouldn't ever show up in a medical visit, and yet it has deep personal relevance to my own health. So I had a series of 3 incidents a couple weeks ago that was sending a clear message to me. The first is that I met someone while hiking who had a pit bull type dog. And I have a dog, Balto, and I've gotten to know dog behavior much better. And so, I tried in my way to make friends with the dog. But I was I was almost trying too hard to make friends with the dog and overexciting it, right? And at some point, it just snapped. It snapped and it didn't bite me, but it clipped my lip. And it was like this, wow, that was just a huge wake-up call. And I didn't think much of it at the time. I just parted ways, and I didn't even mention it to the owner. I didn't want her to be, make her embarrassed. But it really stuck with me, like, whoa, what was that about? I was just trying to make friends with the dog, and I got bit, clipped on the lip by it. Literally a day later, I'm responding to an email. My daughter recently switched switched clubs for soccer. And I was sending an email to the old club and all the parents saying, parting ways. And in my rush to just get it done, I sent it from my wife and myself, and I just pressed send. I'm like, there, off my plate. And not to get into details, but my wife called me just a couple moments later and said, oh, Anthony, I wish you could have changed the language here and here, especially since it's from both of us. And I was like, okay. And I just logged that. And then the third incident was literally that very same day in the afternoon. I'm running to the gym. I'm running late with my to CrossFit, which is a, kind of exercise I've started recently, with my glass bottle in hand. And I trip over one of these parking bumpers, and I go splat with the bottle in my hand. It breaks into shards. I think you can see the healing scar right here, there, and then you can see the healing scar here, and, got a little scar here. I guess, is PG. Well, no, I've got a scar on my chest from where the glass cut me. And I go into CrossFit, like bleeding. And I paused and reflected at the end of that day, and I journaled about all three of these incidents. And I think you can all guess the message that the universe, that God, that Jesus was sending me. The message was slow down. Breathe. Pause. Why are you rushing? Why are you rushing from thing to thing to thing? Right? Why are you trying to rush the relationship with this dog? Why are you trying to rush to send out that email before it's ready? Why are you rushing to CrossFit? And then as a result, I couldn't even go to the session that day because I was bleeding on the dumbbells. I had to go home for health reasons. And it was slow down, right? And in the absence of spirituality, I could have taken a very different message from these. I could have just been like, gosh, I can't believe that dog bit me. What a horrible owner that didn't train their dog. Oh my gosh, what's the big deal? I could have shot back defensively to my wife, like, just chill out, relax. And then I could have been more annoyed at the bumper and falling and not learned any lesson from that. Just like, stupid bumper, right? That could have been the takeaway. It just filled with more annoyance and frustration. And it was through faith and spirituality that I just surrendered. I let it go, even the hard moments. And it's not that I am, how would I put it? It's not that I'm glad that any of these three things happened, but in this strange way, I'm thankful for them, because even in suffering or even in adversity, I'm now in this place that I trust that it's forming me, it's transforming me, it's helping me on my journey for whatever I need to learn. And I guarantee you, I'm going to need to continue to learn this lesson of slowing down again and again. It is my Achilles heel. But I have faith in something greater that's helping me along the way. So as we kind of bring these things to a close, I just invite you to reflect, what gives your life meaning? What is it that you're living for? How do you connect to something greater than yourself? Who or what inspires you to keep going? I want to make clear that through the McDougall Program, I've connected with people from all faiths and religious backgrounds: Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, Hindu, Buddhist, Seventh-day Adventist, Catholic, recovering traumatized Christian and Catholic people, atheists, nature people, shamans. Like, it's not, in other words, my point is it's not so much like this is what you have to believe, as much as just inviting you to explore what it looks like in your life with the robust scientific evidence that there is a benefit to it. I would love for you, if anything I said moved you, to connect with me. You can connect through the McDougall Program, where, as Dr. Loy mentioned, I'm celebrating my 10th year, hard to believe. www.drmcdougall.com. You can arrange consultations there with me, and we run these 12-day intensive lifestyle programs that cover all these various aspects of health that I talked about. We just finished a 12-day intensive one just a couple weeks ago, and we had I recently saw a patient whose hemoglobin A1C, which is a measure of diabetes, was greater than 8%, and his most recent one was under 6.5, or was 6.5% exactly in just a few months. And he's lost, I think, 30, 40 pounds eating a healthy plant-based diet and making radical lifestyle changes. So that's one way to connect. I have an Instagram, Dr. Anthony Lim. I don't update it often, but that's one way to connect. And then you can email me at holyhealth7@gmail.com. 7 is a sacred number across many religions, and holy health, you can hear the play on words, right? I'd love to hear from you. If you feel moved, please write me with what resonated most with you today and how what you've learned might shape your health journey. And just as a fun reward, I'm going to choose one person who responds by this Friday at midnight to receive a complimentary 30-minute Zoom session with me to talk about whatever it is that is coming up for you in this holistic health puzzle diagram and approach that I have shared with you today. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Dr. Lim. That was so powerful.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Michelle. Thank you, Dr. Loy. It's from the heart. I can tell you, that's just from the heart. It's my story.
Let's see, do we have any questions? Please put them in the comment section. Like you said, we don't talk about spirituality and meaning and purpose a lot in medicine, but I was really struck how, with the diagram where you have it in the center, where everything else is an outgrowth from that, right? And like you said, it's really the secret sauce of behavioral change.
Yeah, and sometimes that image is worth 1,000 words, right? So I'm going to show you right now in a bodily form what my patients are like in terms of what they're after when they come to see me. Okay, you ready for this? That, whether it's eating whole food plant-based, whether it's prepping for that next marathon, whether it's getting off of medications, they're like, I gotta go, do it. They're so focused on it, and they're so control oriented. Like, I am the master of my destiny, and no one's been able to help me, but I believe you can, and tell me what to do. And I get it, because that's me. That's my old story. And if in one image, what I'm inviting you to is any area in your life that you're like, where you feel that is what is contingent upon your life being okay, is to move from this to, I know it's antithetical. I know it is not the American mentality that you are the master of your destiny. But I'm just going to tell you from the bottom of my soul that it is the path of peace. That I have yet to meet a single individual. If you tell me who that person is, I will fly across the world to meet it. I have yet to meet a single individual who has been able to control every aspect of their life. Not one. And so in the absence of total control, what do you do when something you want is outside your control? How do you handle that? And I've found the deepest truth that connects all religions, which is this spirit of deep surrender. And this paradoxical notion that surrender is not weakness, that in your surrender is where your deepest strength is able to shine through. So that is my hope and prayer for each and every one of you, that you are able to surrender to whatever it is that to you represents unconditional love, uncompromising truth, and indefatigable hope. Because that is something, whatever that is, whatever name you give it, that is something worth surrendering your need for control over.
Wow. We have one question. Is it possible to send the slides? Someone says they just joined their event.
I'll leave it to Plant Powered Metro New York. That my slides are up on this, so
we'll see.
Happy to share them.
Okay. Thank you.
And that's a shift too, just so you know. I still remember in my early days of McDougall Program, my slides, I was just like, they're my slides. It's my, I don't know, my proprietary stuff. And now I'm just like, great. You like the slides enough to review them? Wow. How awesome is that? You want to use some of them? Great.
Wonderful. Is there anything else that you would like our viewers to know that we haven't covered yet?
Yes, I think the final thing I really, really want to impress upon people, this is an invitation. Okay? Faith and spirituality does not come from a place of pressure. Whatever your experience with organized religion from the past, whatever pressures and harms and judgmental messages, I'm just going to tell you that is not the true heart of faith. The true heart of faith is always, always a loving invitation. So if you're feeling like, oh my gosh, now there's more stuff that I have to do and should do, you just need to let that go. What I'm asking you is, hey, I'm just holding my hands out. I'm just inviting you. What does this bring up for you? What does it feel like you're feeling invited to take that next step? And then my encouragement is, take it. Don't think too far ahead. Don't say to yourself, well, I could never become Christian like Dr. Lim, or I could never, that's thinking too far ahead. Just think, what's the next step of faith in whatever that I can take, and take it. That's it. That's what I would want to leave people with.
Thank you. Thank you for that takeaway. So powerful. This replay will be available on YouTube and Facebook later on this evening. And I think, let's see.
Oh, thank you. Excellent. Thank you both so much. That was really very moving. There have definitely been some areas I've been struggling with, wanting to be calm and peaceful, but still feeling where I push myself. And this is an invitation, I think, for all of us that is really life-changing. So this past 45 minutes has been incredible. And I thank both of you for showing us how to nourish our soul in a variety of different ways. There's something for everyone. And that it is just as essential, or even from the data, more essential than nourishing the body. But how nice to do it all, right? So thank you so much for both being here and helping us tune into what really matters. And we're all excited to transform our health from the inside out with this beautiful invitation. So I'll go through a few links now about how you can get to see Dr. Lim in his form at drmcdougall.com. I know Grace will put that up on the screen. You can learn more about Dr. Lim's practice and programs at drmcdougall.com. And you can follow him on Instagram, as he mentioned, for more great tips. In fact, you can even email him and potentially get a half an hour with him, which sounds really exciting to me. You can find the recording for this program, as we mentioned, and many others on the Plant Powered Metro New York YouTube channel. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel so you will get notices when we go live with important programs just like this one. A special thanks to our Plant Powered Metro team members, Grace Simoneau, for supporting our live stream behind the scenes, and for Jim Spellos for always setting up our StreamYard. So you can visit the Plant Powered Metro website to find more upcoming learning and social events, and that's plantpoweredmetrony.org. We'll have a new website next week, so definitely check it out. Please consider making a donation to support our mission. Every bit helps us reach more communities with important programs for all. And we'll also put the donation link up in a minute or two. That's also on our website. When you check out our new website, you can see the new donate button. So thank you all for being here. We had a lot of people in the studio listening, and I know a lot of people will benefit from the replay, and we will share it with people we love, and because we just want to give them the benefit of that same invitation. So from all of us here in the studio, we hope to see you in our next program, in person or virtual, and best wishes for good health. Thank you for joining us.